Hello, everyone. Welcome to Zebra Developer Conference 2021. My name is Dan Qualiana. I am the product manager for Zebra's VisibilityIQ portfolio, and I'm really excited to be here to talk to you about how you can leverage the APIs we have to better maintain and run your device fleet. So as we dive in here, I just want to remind everyone that the Zebra developer community is a key method in which we want to connect. So we can do that through our developer portal at developer.zebra.com. All of the APIs that I am going to walk through today are hosted through this site. You can interact with them, review them, see the specifications around them through this site. Similarly, we're very tightly tied in that myself and the engineers on our team have given several of the Dev Talk webinars. We have old versions of those posted on YouTube and connected that you can reference in our material. And we also post updates and share those through the DevBuzz newsletters. So please go to the developer portal, sign up for this community so that you can make sure you're hearing the latest of what's going on with VisibilityIQ, but across the entire developer portfolio from Zebra. So I'm really excited to talk to you about VisibilityIQ. This is a group that I joined about a year ago, and we've really worked to focus on the developer as we're maturing this product. VisibilityIQ is something that's really focused in on an entire fleet of devices, helping our customers and partners to better understand what they have, where it's at, the state that it's in, to be able to manage and optimize those devices and how they're being used. We do this by collecting information from those devices, from various MDM systems, from our services platform and other third-party sources, and we're merging all this data together, we're analyzing it, and then presenting it either through a single UI pane of glass and also directly through APIs. Our intent here is not just to show data, but to focus on insights. What are some of the takeaways? What recommendations do we have for users and operational teams to better manage and maintain these devices and the batteries that sit within them? So traditionally, we've had this user interface, and about 9 months ago, we made the strategic shift that we wanted to make sure that our customers and partner community could better take the same types of insights that we are presenting through a user interface and be able to programmatically collect that information and then drive automatic actions through these APIs. So whether it's a customer wanting to drive an action and assign a task to a person, if it's a partner looking to pull some of our insights into a legacy system they already have, or some combination of the two, these APIs have really been connecting and providing value to our community. VisibilityIQ is a product that launched in 2019. It was built off some other frameworks of products that we had before, but we've really worked to refine this and enhance it. At this point, we have over 250 unique customers. I think that's actually grown closer to 300 at this point. We have over 1.3 million devices under contract in our system. And so that really helps to show the maturity at which the product and the portfolio is at here. We have a large number of users taking advantage of this. So I spoke that we've really shifted our model now to not just be a software user interface model, but we are going to market simultaneously both with the APIs and that user interface. So whether a customer is looking to do one or the other or both, we want to be there to meet the needs of any type of customer that we may have. Just a few weeks ago, we had one of our latest releases, and at that point, we were able to have full parity between what we're offering through the user interface and the APIs. I'm really excited to be able to say that. It's been a little bit of a journey getting all these APIs created, making sure that they're meeting the needs of our developers, but we're at that point. And going forward, every new feature that we put out in the market will launch with the API and the user interface simultaneously at the same time. Another big update that we've done this year is traditionally we only supported Zebra's Android mobile computers. We now have launched support for Zebra's LinkOS or printers as well. So a lot of the insights as we go through and the APIs are supporting both product lines. And as I get into what we have, how you can use it, you're going to see that these are classified pretty clearly around whether they support one or the other or both through that. Another big update we've done this year, as we're looking at how are the devices being used and what needs to be done, we've done some refinement on some of our algorithms. So one of these that we took advantage of and enhanced was around device utilization. So is a device being used? So a few areas that we've made updates to this, we are now looking hourly to identify each hour is a printer or a mobile computer being used. And now we have that ability to present that to the customers. So if they're trying to understand when are peak periods during the day, what days are peak throughout a week, and then they can look over time to identify for planning purposes when these peak periods are to make sure that they're best prepared for that. We also can look across site by site, so you can do some of those comparisons to see maybe you have certain sites where you have too many devices with a number of them not being used, and you have others where too little, and you could potentially do some balancing across those. We've also matured how we're evaluating utilization within the mobile computers, looking at more data points within that. So whether a backlight is on, if an application's being used, if scans are being done, and if there's a certain amount of battery drain to really enhance that. And then another big update we did, and we continue to do this, is looking at remaining useful life of our batteries. We've actually, we're on version 4 at this point. So in this version, we are now significantly reducing the number of unable to predicts that we had, so that we now have 80% of batteries that are reporting are able to tell you when it's expected that that battery will either no longer hold a shift for a full, hold a charge for a full shift, or that that battery is outside of the manufacturer's recommended usage patterns. So that's around the charging capacity. And then that impacts things such as that battery's temperature and ability to work. And so that gets into safety issues. So when these batteries hit a remaining useful life of 0 days, we highly recommend that that be replaced at that point. But by giving some of this countdown, a predictive approach, it allows our customers to start planning ahead so that they can order appropriate batteries. They can get work orders going to pull some of those batteries out of service. So those are some of the updates. I want to just spend a little bit of time talking through kind of our philosophy and how some of the information is flowing, and a little bit of some of the differentiation of what we have within our APIs and the approach that we have versus some other methods that you may have to get what you may view as some similar types of information. So I mentioned earlier the data sources we have. So in the bottom left, you can see we're pulling data directly from the devices. Well, many of you are doing that as well, working with our LinkOS SDK on the print side, or the EMDK, or even Data Wedge, other tools on the mobile computer side. Well, one of the things we're taking advantage of are agents that Zebra has built into the devices. So these agents ship with those devices, and they collect a host of information. On the mobile computer side, this is collecting more information than what is available through either standard Android APIs or through the EMDK. So there's some value add and uniqueness there. We're also collecting information from Zebra's partner portals, from our repair portal, other things along those lines, so that we can collect a lot of that information to understand entitlement of service and a repair lifecycle information. And then lastly, we connect with MDMs to be able to pull information around sites and other device information. We then, at that middle layer, are collecting that information and analyzing that. We're running some standard algorithms and some machine learning algorithms to do a much deeper analysis so we can get into that predictive state of what is happening, what should be happening for these planning purposes. We then present this either through that user interface, VisibilityIQ Foresight, or through the APIs that we'll be going through today. So as we look at this, this is a list of where we're at today with the portfolio of the APIs. And what I'm going to do for the next 15 or so minutes is dive down a little bit deeper into what some of these are, what some of the data that's coming through and the insights, and help tie that in with business problems and why you would care about that. So since the last time I talked through this, I believe we've released over 10 new APIs, and those are some of the ones that I'm really going to focus in on. We had a developer event back in June, I believe it was, and I hit on a fair number of the original 20 or so, but now the new 10, I want to make sure people really understand what we have and highlight those. I think one other thing I want to reiterate again is, as we look at the timeline across the bottom, that we now have that the full offering of APIs matches what's in the user interface. And so now going forward, every new feature for VisibilityIQ will launch with that API as well as the UI interface. And then, okay, so now let's look into this. So one question we do get, and I alluded to this earlier, is, why would we use the APIs coming through VisibilityIQ instead of building our own? And I think that's a very valid question. I think if there's some base level of information you're looking for, there's no reason why you can't use the EMDK or the LinkOS SDK. Those are great tools. They give you a lot of good insight. What we're trying to do is go a little bit deeper. And I truly believe that we have demonstrated that the way that we've been able to optimize these agents that we have, and then the cost structure we have around that there's a lot of value just within that. So as I mentioned, these agents are pre-installed on our devices. So what that means is you don't need to do an additional installation, as well as maintenance of these as well. So the ZPC agent on their printers is tied directly into the firmware and updates that come through that. The mobile computer agent manages its own updates to make it easier and controls that on its own. These are then regularly updated by Zebra to make sure that they are always up to date. We have had these running for well over 5 years, and we actively this year have had over 4 million devices that are regularly reporting into our system. This is all scalable and built on Zebra Savannah, which is Zebra's cross company cloud platform. We're using that, for the mobile computers, for the printers, or even, RFID readers and other things that aren't necessarily supported today in VisibilityIQ, but we leverage that Zebra Savannah for it. We also test extensively to make sure that these agents have as little impact on the device as possible. So you can see some of the numbers here in terms of the battery, CPU, and memory impact, as well as bandwidth on the network. We really try to reduce that so that we can have as little impact on the customer operations and usability of that device as possible. And again, running this over 4 million devices for over 5 years has given us a lot of opportunity to test that, to validate that. And our largest customers have this turned on and are actively taking advantage of the capabilities in it. I'd also like to point out that particularly the mobile computer side, we're collecting, I believe it's over 260 data points, and about a third of those are unique to that agent. They're not things that can be accessed through other Zebra tool sets. And so that gives us some unique insight into what's going on in those devices that we can now make available to you, our developer community, to take advantage of as you're trying to optimize how these devices are being used. I do have a link here. We've tried to post a good amount of information on these agents on Tech Docs. We're continuing to add to that to make that easier for people to understand how to set up and take advantage of those agents. But now let's dive into what are these APIs and what can you do with them. So as we look into this, there were some of those categories that I had broken the APIs down into. So previously, kind of going left to right, we had the battery, the device utilization, and then the service levels. I'm kind of jumping around a little bit here, but we're going to start on the far right side, the service levels. So what we have heard from our partners and customers is the whole repair process. If you are a medium to large size customer, you can have a large number of devices going through this life cycle at any given time. And so therefore, it can be very critical to understand what you have in that process, where it's at in the process, and when will it be returned to you, so that you can make sure that you're on top of those devices. Also, if you are a managed service providing partner, this information is critical. Now, is this available through, this information is available through a portal, but that requires manual intervention to look at that and go through it. We're now providing this direct access through an API. So what happens if you don't fall into some of those categories? Maybe you're a customer and you want to understand, how are my users of these devices actively taking care of them? What are my biggest problems that are sending things in for repair? Well, we have that information. You can dive into the common issues that are coming through. What are the faults? What are the problem codes? And then what type of repair was done to address that? That way you can start understanding if your users are breaking a lot of the devices, you can see that. Are you sending a lot of devices for repair and no trouble is found on those devices? And so ultimately you're shipping those to Zebra, not having those devices to use while they're being evaluated and sent back with no change made to them. We want to help you reduce that. Similarly, we also have information just around the service contract, right? So, what type of contract do you have? When does it expire? So we can make sure that we're staying on top of renewals there. So neither of those is new, though. One of the new ones that we've exposed now is around Lifeguard. So Lifeguard is for the mobile computers. This is the system in which we maintain the updates to the operating system and to the security level updates on these. So through this API, we are providing information around what currently is on your devices and what is the latest that's available. So we do this a few different ways. So you can see what is the most current levels for the operating system that is on your device, and then also what is just the overall latest that can be used. Why do we break those down? Well, the vast majority of our customers are not able to update every single time because there's a large volume of these that come through. And so we want to make sure that based on where you're at, do you have the latest security patches or what overall is available? Through this API, you also can start seeing how many of the devices fit in these different categories, how many need updates, how many are properly updated, so you can pull that in. So another big piece is around that we focus in VisibilityIQ is around battery management. Many of our customers greatly struggle with this. How do you know when a battery is no longer going to last a full shift? How can you identify problem batteries when you have thousands of batteries and devices that are out there? Whether you're a customer that keeps the same battery in a device all the time, or if you have a pool and you're swapping those out, there's a lot of different use cases customers have. And so what we're trying to do is help you better manage these. And ultimately, we have seen many customers, when they have battery issues, they start seeing wasted money and wasted devices. So devices either can be hidden by people because they don't want to use a device that has bad batteries. Maybe batteries are hidden for those reasons as well. So this is a big cause of loss. We also have some companies that make a decision that after a certain amount of time, they're just going to replace the batteries. Well, we want to empower you with knowledge, because if your batteries are still working effectively, you don't need to replace them. Some customers we've gone to have boxes of batteries sitting around unused. We want to reduce that waste. And so we've come up with this category that we call our remaining useful life. Remaining useful life looks across a large number of data points. So whether it's the health status, the current draw, the age, a discharge rate, a whole host of items, and it's looking across some of the patterns that we've seen in the field, as well as comparing with manufacturers' expectations or recommendations. And then we're giving a prediction on when we expect that battery to need to be replaced. Sometimes this is important for planning purposes to make sure you get budget, assign resources, but other times you just want to know, should I replace the battery? So when we show RUL is 0, so that's remaining useful life is 0, that means that battery now is out of spec and needs to be replaced. So that's not only to help make sure that that battery will last a full shift, but it's also for safety reasons. Once you go outside of the manufacturer's recommendations, you could be at risk of overheating, temperature change, things like that. And we highly want to recommend that those batteries be replaced. So as we look at some of the items down below, this starts getting into more business process. How are these batteries being used? How can we optimize that? So whether it's swapping information, if it's what is the average level that those batteries are at, if you're having high discharge rates on some batteries, that could speak to application issues that you're having, or it could speak to battery issues. So a lot of things that can help you dive in and debug some problems that you're running into. So another piece we want to look at, sometimes just a basic view into how many devices do I have, where are they at, and are they being used, or are they connected and lost? So some of these pieces are pretty core to our customers, but when we start looking at customers with hundreds, thousands of devices globally deployed, it becomes very challenging to manage that. That's where our total devices in operation out of contact really come into play. Newly activated devices helps when you're deploying devices. So when does it first come online and when is it first used? Utilization is something tied in with the devices in operation. And I spoke to that earlier on some of the enhancements around that utilization and how much those are being used. And then the out of contact, if we have devices not reporting in, we can help recover those with some information around when it was last seen, where it was last seen, tying in with access points. Also now with the support of printers, we've added something specific around the printer utilization so that you can understand how many labels are being printed, what's the average, so you can start getting into some planning purposes for media replenishment as well as just to make sure sometimes this printing is a critical path item in a manufacturing process. So you can plan ahead, make sure you're set in terms of what you have there. These utilization pieces here are things that I spoke to in some of my other presentations, so I don't want to go too deeply on it. But if we look at the top, what applications do you have on the device? How much are they being used? Are you where are your versions across your enterprise? Are you running the same versions of these applications? Things like that that you can look into. And then the next two are looking at problems you might be seeing. Devices rebooting, either the user triggering that or the system doing it because it's crashing. Also, applications hanging up with application not responding, and then the ability to dive down deeper to understand what apps are causing that, what components in the apps are triggering some of those issues. And then lastly, on the wireless LAN, this can help you troubleshoot if there are areas within a building where you're having some low signals spots, as well as if you have devices that are having regular issues with connectivity that maybe need to get looked into. So a lot of things to evaluate there. And I think something else, just kind of high level, I haven't spoken to too much. Most of these APIs have the ability, so you can now go in and you can look across an entire business, or you can look by site, or you can look per device as well. So giving you that ability to drill down into the data as much as you want. So the last group of APIs I wanted to focus on, all of these which are new, are again focusing on the utilization. So when we look at the RAM and the storage that's there, this is actually a pretty common cause of app crashes and device reboots. So monitoring and managing how much memory is being used, how much is available, can help out with that. So at the storage memory, understanding the size of the partition, how much is full, can help you prevent some of those crashes that we see in the field. When we look at scanning, this is another way of that you can look at utilization, but it also starts getting into some of your business processes. So how much is being scanned, and then are you getting successful scans or issues? So is there a problem with the scanner? Is the style in which people are trying to use the scanners inefficient? Maybe even your barcodes and where you have them placed or the quality of how they're printed is an issue. So you can identify if there's a high level of problems through the scanning. And then the last one here around right sizing and utilization. This is really looking, I've talked about utilization several times. This is trying to help you understand at each site, how much are you optimizing the number of devices that are there? Do you have a lot of unutilized devices, or are you regularly maxing out all of your devices as well? So either of those could be a problem for you. So overall, I really hope that this has been beneficial to see how you can dive into the health and the utilization of the devices in the fleet. I hope that, from a customer perspective, you could see how this can help you optimize that usage. By pulling in this data, you can tie into those service systems to start addressing some of these issues. And from a partner perspective, maybe you're an ISV, you want to pull some of this into your application, or if you're a managed service partner and you want to pull some of this into your tool as well to help you give your customer a better experience. You're all the audience that we're really trying to target with this. So again, every one of these APIs is posted on the developer portal where we host our APIs. You can walk through them. You can see the inputs and the outputs that we have there. There's information around some of the use cases. If you are interested in learning more, getting access to our demo system where you can call some of these, please connect with your account manager, or even you can reach out to me. I'm always happy to answer questions and drive more adoption of these. So thank you so much for joining, listening to me talk about Visibility IQ. And I'd really love to hear any questions that you might have. So I'd love to dive in for the live Q&A. For folks in the APAC session, we're having one of our engineers available to answer any of those questions. And I'll be available for our European, Middle East, Africa, and North and Latin America folks to answer those questions. So join me in the live chat so that we can help get any of those questions answered. Thank you so much.